Hey y'all, Andrew here with Free Tours by Foot New Orleans. Today I'm going to share with you some things you can do in New Orleans for absolutely free. The most important of these is festivals. We are a festival town. There are more festivals in South Louisiana than days of the year, and a lot of them are free to attend. Mardi Gras, for example. The only people paying to attend a Mardi Gras parade are the very small part of the crowd that's watching from bleachers or a balcony, and the people in the parade. They pay for the privilege of putting on the biggest free show in the world. And the beads and stuff they throw, paid for by the person throwing them. Some of them do it just for love of the holiday, and some of them do it because they own the hotel where you're staying or the restaurant where you had lunch, and they more than make their money back. But either way, you get the experience for free. Another free festival we host every year is French Quarter Fest. It's a music festival, a lot like our more famous Jazz Fest, but it's almost all local bands in the whole gamut of local styles, and they're spread out on a bunch of stages all across the French Quarter. It's completely free to attend. It's usually in April, which means great weather, although in 2021, it's happening in late September and early October. If you're going to be visiting town, you can find information on neworleans.com and other local websites about these and other free festivals. And the website of the festival itself is the best place to go looking for admission information. But even when there's no entrance fee, it is worth bringing some cash with you when you go to a festival. Outside food and drinks generally aren't allowed, and there's always plenty of both for sale. While we're talking about music, there's a lot of music in town that looks free, but really isn't. At least not if you want musicians to be paid for their work. Musicians at festivals are generally paid pretty well, and if a venue charges a cover, that usually is going toward paying the musicians too. On Bourbon Street and at some bars on Frenchman Street, there's no cover and a one-drink minimum. What that means depends on the venue, but often it means the musicians are relying on tips. The same goes for street musicians. They aren't managed or paid by the city, so they make whatever gets thrown in their bucket. So it wouldn't be accurate for us to call that free music, but it can be low-cost music. Even you throwing a little bit in the bucket has a ripple effect by helping other listeners standing nearby understand how the system works. Back to the free stuff. There's one music venue in town that has a pretty unusual tradition. It's an uptown bar on Magazine Street called Le Bon Temps Roulé. Look on the screen for the spelling. If you don't speak French, it makes no sense. And if you do speak French, it makes even less sense. Anyway, on Fridays, Le Bon Temps Roulé offers free oysters. They have a food menu too, so it's easy to mix that up with a bigger meal, and there's live music at the same time. Starts at 7 and continues until they run out, so get there early. If music's part of your interest in New Orleans, then one free space worth visiting is Louis Armstrong Park. It's just outside the French Quarter in the neighborhood called the Treme, and it's occasionally a festival site, but it's also a monument to jazz and other musical history, and it's the place where some of that history happened. The park contains Congo Square, a spot originally just outside the town limits, where enslaved people spent Sundays socializing, buying from one another, dancing and drumming. And the drumming and dancing are a living tradition, so you can enjoy some free music there on Sunday afternoons. There's not a hard start time, but around 3 is usually a safe bet. Other parks are naturally also free to attend. There's Crescent Park, a long strip landscaped with native plants that begins right outside the French Quarter and runs along the riverfront of the Marigny and Bywater neighborhoods. Uptown, beyond the Garden District, you've got Audubon Park, huge green space next to the mansions of St. Charles Avenue and with the Audubon Zoo nested inside. Over across the Mississippi River, bit of a drive from the main tourist area, is Barataria Preserve, huge national park that preserves local wetlands. And in the Mid-City neighborhood, just a streetcar ride away from the French Quarter, is City Park, which has nature preserves that are free to visit, plus some reasonably priced other things to do, like the New Orleans Museum of Art, that museum's sculpture garden, the Botanical Garden, a children's museum, a kids' theme park, which is free for children, and a location of Café du Monde right by a beautiful bayou. While you're out at City Park, you can also find a couple of other free attractions in Mid-City. One is the Fairgrounds Race Course. General admission at the race course is free, although they do charge for some seating and for other services that they offer. They enforce a resort casual dress code in some of the paid areas, but the free portions are come as you are. And once in a while, they also host exotic racing, where you can watch competitions between zebras, emus, or wiener dogs. Another attraction near City Park is St. Louis Cemetery number 3. Cemeteries are a pretty big tourist attraction in New Orleans, and while the cemeteries themselves don't charge admission, most visitors do end up paying to see one because they take a tour. And a tour is the only way to see St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, the city's oldest cemetery, which is just outside the French Quarter. But the rest of them are free to enter, and St. Louis No. 3 is a great mix of historic and modern, and it's just a short walk away from City Park. Indoor historic spaces aren't free nearly as often as outdoor ones, but there are several museums in town that are free sometimes or all the time. The main one is the Historic New Orleans Collection. It's actually a series of spaces across the French Quarter, including 2 museums in buildings on either side of Royal Street, a historic home, and if you like the idea of getting behind the scenes a little, the Williams Research Center, which is a comprehensive resource for researching any property in the French Quarter. They're all free to visit anytime they're open. Also free to enter, St. Louis Cathedral in Jackson Square. When they're not holding Mass or another ceremony, the building is open to visitors, and all throughout the year, but especially in December, they also host free concerts with both religious and secular music. Keep an eye out in front of the building for information about those events. There are a few other free museums in the French Quarter, and they're generally small spaces attached to businesses that tell more about the history of that business or its industry. A place called the Cigar Factory on Decatur Street not only makes and sells cigars, but also shows artifacts from back when the city had a booming cigar trade back in the late 19th century. There's also a business called Bevelot. They're the people behind a lot of the picturesque gas lamps all throughout the French Quarter. They've got a museum in their showroom dedicated to the first municipal gas lighting system in the country, located in New Orleans, and you can watch the process there as the company's craftsmen build copper fixtures for gas lamps too. And then there's Arnaud's, classic Creole restaurant just off Bourbon Street. They've got a museum of costumes from Mardi Gras balls that were worn by members of the owning family. If you happen to have a Louisiana ID, you can also benefit from a free day once a week at 2 of the major art museums in town. The New Orleans Museum of Art on Wednesdays and the Ogden Museum of Southern Artists on Thursdays. If you're not lucky enough to live in Louisiana, there are still lots of free ways to see art. First, if you haven't spent much time around art galleries before, it's okay to go inside an art gallery even if you aren't planning to buy anything. Most people aren't, so you don't have to worry about pushy salespeople. In the French Quarter, you'll find the galleries along with the antique stores on Royal Street just behind Jackson Square. Not far off in the business district, there's another walkable strip of art galleries on Julia Street, and there are some more spread out gallery corridors on Magazine Street uptown and St. Claude Avenue downtown. Those 4 gallery districts all have their own free art walk events, in some cases annually and in some cases even monthly. And you can find art on display every day on the fence around Jackson Square and at art markets on Decatur Street in the Quarter and on Frenchman Street too. If you're not familiar with the streets and neighborhood names that I'm saying, then the free activity for you might be a self-guided tour. We have written tours on our website, linked below, of lots of different parts of town, which can help you explore them at your own pace, or even just have as a reference material as you wander around on your own chosen route. And as the name Free Tours by Foot suggests, our guided tours fall in this category too. The guided tours we offer in New Orleans and elsewhere cost either nothing or a couple bucks reservation fee to attend, and from there you pay whatever you see fit at the end. Basically, we're like street musicians, but street storytellers. And if you feel like this video might save you money and you want to find our tip bucket, it is in the description below. One more thing that's free, all of our other videos. You can check out the rest of our channel for walking tours around this and many more cities, more advice videos, and live Q&As. And it doesn't cost but a couple of clicks to hit like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what other free or affordable activities you've enjoyed in town. People watching definitely counts. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.